Welcome back to the X podcast. We are at the wobbly table, and
it's a little wobbly.
How are you?
It's a different table. Good. How are you?
Good. Have you heard our new intro music?
No.
It's actually so good.
Really?
It's so good. Lydia, did you pick that out?
I don't know.
We won't know. But it's actually so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We had used what was called, what's it called? It's like, I don't know. It's music bed that won't get flagged.
Yes.
It's got to be, can't be, I don't know. It's certain things. It's licensed and whatever. So that's what we've been using for years. Mm-hmm. And then I heard it was starting to get flagged.
It was flagged.
And it's like, wait a minute. We've used this for 4 years now? 3 years? How long has it been?
Have you had any moments?
I don't know.
Have you had any moments where you hear it somewhere and you're like, wait, why do I know this? This feels as familiar as my skin. And then it's actually the podcast music.
Yeah. Well, she said Maria and her picked it. So good job, guys.
Good job. It's actually, it's
I like
funky.
it.
It's like, yeah.
New.
Good. We are taking a break from the email that never ends.
Yes. We're getting close to it's not just one email.
Mm-hmm.
There was multiple.
Yes.
There was lots and lots of questions. So we're going to take a break.
We probably have like the scalded water syndrome of we'll dip our toes in politics, be as self-censored as imbalanced and across the board as we think we can, get scalded anyways and say never again. And then enough current events build back up to where it's like,
well, that's what I put it.
Let's have a conversation because there's just, especially when there's an accumulation of things and some of them are kind of going together. And a lot of it is affecting people. I mean, even this, I don't even know if I told you, it would have made you really nervous because whenever this comes out, I'm supposed to speak this weekend, but I had plans to fly into Greenville because my dad's having back surgery on Friday, but because of the shutdown, and flights and everything else. Not only are flights astronomical, but thousands are being delayed or canceled. Yeah, and even if I made it there and hit the lottery to do it, I don't know that I'd make it back.
I know.
And
it's getting risky to fly right now.
It's getting risky to fly. They said a lot of people could be missing time with their family. I heard one late night show guy. He said, now look, one result could be thousands missed time with their family at Christmas, but there could also be negative results as well. I was like, okay. But
hopefully this is not dragging on. We could talk about that. We're getting close potentially to after, 47 days a record or something like that. It's 40-something days so far. I think I just saw. Yeah. That we actually get the House are actually going to come back from their really, really long extended paid vacation that's been, I think, 6+ weeks, while all the rest of the government, most of them having to work and aren't getting paid. Yep. I mean, we have the most messed up system there is in government when you can have the people who decide all the stuff for the federal government that have to approve the budget cannot come to an agreement, decide we're not going to hold session, disappear, and go back home. And I've heard they're not doing any, because of the shutdown, like none of the House of Representatives are doing any town hall meetings. They're not talking to anybody. And they're basically just, we're separated from this. We're not going to do anything about it. And sorry if you work for the federal government, which my daughter does and is in the military.
Happy Veterans Day, by the way, to everybody out there.
Yeah.
Who is the buff shirtless guy on the second slide of your post yesterday? Was that you?
No. That was not me. I was not in the U.S. Air Force. That was my dad.
Okay, I was like, wow.
Didn't that picture look a little old to be me? It looked like it was dated.
It looked like you took it in the 30s.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. We have the same build.
Yeah.
Okay. But, we have the same build. But, yeah, so, yeah, it's just kind of a really messed up, twisted world where you don't have to work and you get paid. And your job is to make sure that the people who do work get paid, and then you don't.
But, I mean, at least they hopefully got a good vacation. The question you said you were going to answer is, whose fault is this?
I did not say I was going to answer that, but...
Do we want to talk about the montage through the years of clips?
No, you talk of President Trump saying that in the previous years, if there was ever a federal shutdown, that he said it was the president's fault, and now he's saying it's the Democrats' fault. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those clips have been going around for a long time during this shutdown,
and the longest shutdown in history.
Yep, and the second longest shutdown in history was another time when President Trump was, which kind of just I think goes to show that he is willing to use these kind of moments and hold out. Mm-hmm. I think more than we've had previous administrations would do that. Like they would, there's a lot of people getting really upset and angry. We better find or make concessions or do whatever. And I don't think he cares, at least not in that regard.
Right.
I would say this, and I know he cares. Maybe it's not that doesn't care. We've seen this already with the tariffs. Doesn't really care about short-term pain if he thinks that it's going to solve long-term problems. I think that's his approach. We see that with the tariffs, and that's what he's been saying this whole time. We haven't seen again, I don't know how much long-term. We haven't seen the long-term gain yet.
We're going to get another. Are we going to get another stimmy check?
Well, he is floating that now, and it's probably because of these ongoing issues. So I guess
I heard somebody say this person was on the far left. They're like, "Hey, don't tell anybody. He is accidentally becoming a socialist because he's stealing all the money, the tariffs, and he's about to give all these checks to the poor. He doesn't realize it. Nobody say anything."
Oh yeah, what I would say is this: it's again, having family members who aren't, getting paychecks and friends and people we know that aren't getting paychecks, military and other things, air traffic controllers, seeing the pause in flights, and there's other disruptions probably coming unless hopefully this gets resolved. Mm-hmm. And it could. By the time this podcast comes out, they may have approved something. Mm-hmm. I understand what I think are the primary arguments. It seems like the Democrats are holding out because of what happened in the big, beautiful bill and cutting off money to subsidiaries that were helping fund paying for medical services and things like that to insurance companies, some of which for undocumented migrants or immigrants in our country. Now, again, the talking points that I've heard is like 1% of the actual money spent for Medicaid and other things. It's not that big of a number. Again, just depends on what side is kind of projecting their view of it. There is definitely a bigger issue that needs to be addressed with insurance. Mm-hmm. That seems to be, to me, from everything I've been reading and watching, that seems to be kind of at the center of this. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Republicans, which I think also do make a very valid point, that all we've seen since the Affordable Health Care Act is our rates go up.
Yeah.
And it is true. I mean, I remember when that went into effect in 2014, and literally it feels like every year 20% increase in insurance premiums and costs are out of this world, out of control. And we've already seen, though, that by cutting off the subsidiaries, that everybody that was on Affordable Health Care Act that was on it, that they're already, because the open enrollment's out, is that premiums are doubling or tripling because these insurance companies aren't going to get money from the government.
Yep.
And the Republicans are basically saying, hold on, this is a problem. We have a messed up system. The insurance companies are getting really rich, and we're paying more for insurance, and it is getting out of control. So I kind of understand both concerns.
So what okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the solution when it comes to healthcare? Because, and I'm one of those people that, when President Obama was in office, I did not like him. Now I've probably changed a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I actually really like him as a person. I'm not so clear on some of his policies, but I really like him as a person. And I think like his intent was in the right place. But you're right. It seems like healthcare has been horrible. It probably depends on who you ask. I also know that there are other people that like could never have healthcare that found it through some of his policies. But I know like you're middle class person. That ruined healthcare.
Yeah.
And it seems almost impossible to find good healthcare, much less there to be company healthcare. Unless that company has billions to provide like crazy, like military level healthcare, like
so hard.
It's really crazy. Most people are going to, that I know at least, are going to alternatives, healthcare alternatives.
I'm telling you, I think they're better right now than what you can get.
Yeah, they are,
because you end up like I'm on a health sharing plan. We both are.
Yeah,
and I mean, you've seen the. I don't know if you've seen the social media posts that people have done where they're talking to the insurance companies. And when they went to have a service done, they didn't have their insurance information and they got a bill. And it would be like, say, $600 or whatever. And then they turned in, said, no, I have insurance, turned in the insurance. And then they would get the bill after their insurance and it would be like $1,400. And they would call them and go, well, why was it cheaper before I had insurance? And they're like, oh, because there's a discount if you don't have insurance. Well, okay, can I get that discount? No, you have insurance.
Yeah.
Well, okay, can we go back to me not having insurance? No, we already have your insurance information. So it literally was better to not have insurance and be self-pay.
Yeah.
But again.
But it really is. But so, you know, one of President Trump's talking points is Obamacare is awful, which...
There's for a lot of people, it has been awful.
Which valid.
Yeah.
The problem is, and I also think this is valid, he never gave any kind of clear alternative of, okay, here's what we're going to do instead.
Well, there is TrumpRx.com now.
Oh, wow. I didn't hear about that.
So, I don't know when Trump cares. So
what's the solution? Or you listen, I had listened to it, but you sent, it was the clips of John and Bernie Sanders. John Stewart and Bernie Sanders talking.
Yeah. I don't know, because here's what here's the pros and cons.
Healthcare for all?
Well, here's the pros and cons of what it seems like we have privatized insurance right now and privatized healthcare. In other words, right, we have individual, for the most part, for most Americans, we have hospitals that are, we'll say, nonprofit, many of them, but they make a ton of money, and a lot of people make a lot of money in them, or for-profit hospitals. We have insurance companies that are all private, right? And so the whole system we now have is privatized healthcare. It is just out of control. We have insurance companies that are making record profits. We have hospitals that aren't doing too bad. They're not. And I know that they're caught in the middle of it, and they have to keep increasing their services because of maybe they're not getting certain money because they got to help cover things, and whatever insurance companies push back on how much they're going to pay. You know, so there's these big fights that are always going on. Right. And I think the question is, and I don't know what this looks like. I don't even know how you make a move from privatized to government insurance. I mean, I think that's what an attempt was with Obamacare. For lack of term, you know, the moniker Obamacare was creating a government piece that stepped in, but it caused, I think, a ripple effect that was awful for privatized healthcare. So it almost seems like you need all or nothing. I mean, there's got to be other ways and incentives for doing this, but at the core, and then here's the drawback, because we have family that live in Canada, and I know the way it is in Germany. There's, you know, universal health care. There's certain things. Here's a couple of things that I know. Both of those places pay a whole lot more of a percentage in tax than we do. Now, they may not have as many loopholes as we do, so that the uber rich businesses can figure out how to not pay any taxes. Because that happens a lot. Yeah. So then really your middle class, lower class, that don't have all of those means, or maybe aren't taking advantage of all the loopholes, because some of you have to have businesses, and there's ways with short-term rentals that you can get around basically paying any tax. And I mean, there's literally people on YouTube showing how they can make $1 million a year and pay zero federal tax. I mean, just proud. Wow. You do this, you do this. I mean, literally, this law states this, you do this, you boom, zero. I mean, they show it, write it on a chalkboard, show you how you can do it. I mean, it's legal. We you know, we're trying to support businesses at the same time we create these loopholes that people are taking advantage of, so that wealthy people aren't paying a proper share. So you have those issues. I don't know if they have those issues, what I'm saying, in some of those foreign countries, but what I do know is their taxes are higher because it's going toward a universal health care. And the care that they receive, at least I can speak to in Canada, it can be, I mean, we know some of our family were trying to get their son in to go be seen by a specialist on something that's kind of critical, that you're a diagnosis in the first couple of years to know and to find out, and they had about an 18-month wait.
Wow.
So you have universal health care to where you're not paying additional money out of the pocket, but it might not be very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I don't know if that's a better alternative. All I know is I don't know how to put the back in the can. I don't. Yeah. How do we go back to what we had 10 years ago or more?
Like 10 years ago, I remember like, I remember back at the Buckle when I worked at the Buckle. My insurance was I had full insurance and it was awesome. Yeah. I remember I had put off LASIK and Buckle paid for my LASIK. Like anything. Like, I mean, the insurance, it was crazy. And I'm like, and I took it for granted then. I'm like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah.
And for a brief season, it was normal. But
it's getting really hard for families. I do think that insurance seems to be kind of at the core of the shutdown. Yeah. Both sides are holding out. And I actually understand both sides' argument. Mm-hmm. Like, it's valid. Yeah. What I think to me is the most disheartening thing to watch, our government, that we keep funding with our taxes every single paycheck for people who aren't working, who are supposed to solve the problem, that they won't get in a room, that they're holding out on something that I understand is a really important problem to solve, but I don't know, and it just seems this is where we are in the polarization of our government. The only way that we're going to solve problems is if one side experiences enough pain that they cave. Yeah. And it's like, so now we're hurting all the federal employees, air traffic controllers, other people. Now it's affecting flights. Now it's affecting,
it's affecting people's hunger and food.
I mean, yeah, the SNAP benefits and all of that stuff.
Which shout out to our community. We've done a few things over the last few weeks. We've put together forms for people to fill out if they need help. This past Sunday, we did a $1 drop to raise funds to directly support those that are affected by this. Went straight to Canal Winchester. Human Services raised almost $10,000. I was able to drop the check off yesterday, and they just began crying. I was actually able to tour the facility. It is wild, everything they do. Shout out to Canal Winchester Human Services. It's crazy. Yeah. They do so much more than I ever thought they did.
Wow.
But for what we gave, half of it's going to food assistance, the other half to emergency assistance, people with dire need and bills and all kind of stuff. But it's very real. It's affecting a lot of people. Hopefully it's being resolved now. I do think a lot of this bled into the elections. And it seemed like, one phrase was, this was a referendum on Trump. And it was a victory for the Democratic side during the elections. And it's been interesting watching both parties to talk about it. Of course, Democrats are throwing a party. Republicans at first kind of seemed like minimized it, downplayed it, then freaked out.
Well, I'll just say everything that I had kind of paid attention to, the Republicans expected the Democrats to win, but did not expect them to win in the way they did. I mean, you even have, what is the state? I don't know if I get this wrong. Virginia or one of them. I think it was for a governor. And the one guy who won was a Democrat that had a really bad record, had something bad that happened in like a year ago. I can't remember it. I don't know if you remember this, but it was like one of those kind of shame type things came out or something like that. He did something that was really inappropriate that would cause
be canceled.
10 years ago, they would have been done and out. Today, you can do anything and you still get, you still win whatever you're running for. It doesn't matter anymore. And so it was like this Democrat, I think, won handily over the people that they were running against with something that most of the time you would either be canceled for or you would just resign out of shame. So I think what I had heard was the Republicans were expecting the Democrats to win. I mean, a lot of times after you have a full-on win the House, the Senate, and that, especially by the time you get to midterms. I think you're going to see more of this at the midterms.
Yeah, usually there's a swing back, but
not the way it happened.
But another interesting thing has been, and again, it probably just depends on what's, President Trump has been declaring that he has really high approval rates right now. Most polls show that they're the lowest they've ever been, and I think some of the lowest historically of a president.
Yeah.
And so part of it is how much of this, like you said, a lot of times there's a swing back, there's a pendulum, but how much of this is like, oh no, we're tired of this, and a lot of it has to do with the economy.
Oh, to me, I think all of it has to do with the economy right now.
And
majority, I wouldn't say all.
So let's talk about the economy and even some of what's led to news yesterday. One of the things I'm going to just be an equal offender for, I'm going to, respectfully pick on both President Biden and President Trump. One of the things that I don't think helped President Biden and I don't think is helping President Trump is this seeming, it's either a disconnect and or dishonesty about the financial reality on the ground.
Yeah.
President Biden, especially his second half in office, would always say, economy's up, inflation's down. In fairness, maybe the numbers were true. Well, maybe some of that, and our resident statistician Zachary Brown would show us, and you look at the charts, it looked convincing, but when people are still paying what they're paying for eggs or for gas, like all of that falls flat. Yeah. And then President Trump though runs on groceries, gets elected, rarely mentions groceries. We rename the Gulf of America, and that seems to be a lost conversation ever since then. And he even admitted, he was like, well, yeah, I talked about that during election. But then it seems like prices have continued to go up. Tariffs have really hurt a lot of people. There's a lot of other things. And then, but then his talking point is the economy is the greatest it's ever been. And I just think kind of like with President Biden, in the same way, no matter what you say, when people are staring at the reality of what they're having to pay, it falls flat.
Yeah. I think
I agree with that.
Yeah, I saw. Yes, and I think there are a couple things that they both pointed to, but the biggest thing that President Trump keeps coming back to when he's asked about the economy, that's the greatest it's ever been, is the market. That's all he goes back to is the stock market. The food prices are not the best they've ever been. They're the highest they've ever been. And you cannot convince me otherwise. It almost like I saw the interview that he just did, I don't know if it was 60 Minutes or whatever it was over the weekend. And it's almost like he'd be like, no, that's not true. This is the best it's ever been. I'm like, bro, that probably sounds pretty rude. President, bro. I completely disagree. Like, we're sitting there watching him. I was like, I just got back from the grocery store. You cannot convince me that the prices have come down at all. Maybe on eggs a little bit, but nothing else. Everything seems like, she's like, every time we buy something, it just feels like it's at least $1 more. Every item, at least. The groceries are higher. Gas is down. Gas is pretty low. We have a supply, an overage right now of gas, and it is down. That's probably because my wife and I are driving EVs, and so we've actually helped bring the gas prices down. So I'm going to take credit for the gas prices coming down. You're welcome. And but he keeps coming back to, and I think it's the same thing that Biden did as well toward the second half, because what we've seen is from 2021 and on, the stock market has just continually climbed, and it is the highest it's ever been, which is great if you have retirement caught up in the stock market. Like, good. Like I can look at my retirement statement and go, that's great. It's going up. That's not helping me right now.
Right. Well, it's funny because I had my quarterly call with the Edward Jones.
Yeah.
Not with him, but one of the people.
Yeah. And you get to meet with Edward? I've never met with Edward.
And I didn't realize that piece, and so he was like calling to tell you how it's doing, and part of me was like bracing myself. I'm like, do I want to hear it? And he's like, oh, it's great. And I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, it's great.
So people that are able to, so here's what I'd say. I think in general, I'm going to just speak for the average middle class worker who lives on a salary, who tries to put away money for the idea of retirement, but that's probably it. they don't feel that right now.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a lot of other means for making money in the market, you are probably doing really well. So this is why, again, I understand that it can help everybody when the stock market's up, but it doesn't help everybody right now.
Yeah, and if you're just a basic leadership principle, if you pretend something's not there instead of acknowledging it, you lose credibility.
Yeah.
It would be okay, whether it was President Biden or President Trump, to say, hey, let me show you the indicators that are up.
Yeah.
Let me show you the hope of where that's going to lead to in a way that's going to affect you. In the meanwhile, let me acknowledge what you're probably still feeling.
Yeah.
Like that's basic leadership.
And it's not hard to do that. But
no.
When you sit there and basically in the recent interview is just deny. No, it's the best it's ever been. Prices are down all the way across the board. Energy's down.
The funniest thing was 6 months ago, they said, well, what are you going to say if the economy doesn't go up? And he goes, well, if the economy goes up, you can know it's me. If it goes bad, you can know it was Biden.
Yeah, and this is the game we're playing in politics. Nobody is responsible for anything anymore. No. And it's like energy costs. Like you can go fuel at the pump might be down, but electric and gas are up. Yeah. I promise you that.
Yeah.
I've seen the raises they've done. So it's not easier right now. Things are more expensive. Travel is more expensive and gotten really expensive because
Flights
of the shutdown. Things are not getting more affordable. Housing prices have gone up, which we can talk about the solution to that. Okay. But we can talk about that if we want to move on. I don't know what else you want to hit. But
so President Trump became very irritated by the conversation around affordability, because that's been the talking point of the Democrats right now is affordability. And he said, wait, why are they all talking about affordability? Affordability is a Republican thing. And so it seems like out of that frustration came a solution. And
which one? There's been a couple have been dropped recently.
That's true,
there's a tariff solution and there's a mortgage solution.
Very true. Let's talk about the mortgage solution. Fascinating. 50-year mortgages.
Did you hear real quick on the interview? These are just the funny little. I just like the funny little moments, like do you know, is it Diane Sawyer? Who's the lady that sat down with him and did the interview? The big interview. It was the only national interview I've seen him do, with an actual journalist.
Although, did you watch the 2.5 hour Elon Musk, Joe Rogan?
I did not. Okay. I can't speak to it, so I didn't.
You're right.
But so she sits down, and the first question she asks, okay, about the shutdown right now, and he goes, Democrats' fault. And it's just like under his breath, like it's the very first words that he says, Democrats' fault. And then so there was another moment. It was kind of similar with the mortgage.
Yeah,
he's talking about the housing affordability, and he talks about like we're talking about like a 50-year mortgage, and she kind of pauses and she goes, she brings up, well, like that's quite a bit of an increase, and he was like, oh, it's from 40 to 50. It's not that big a deal. And she goes, no, 30. Like I've not seen 40-year mortgages on a regular. And he goes 30. It's like 40 to 50. It's 10 years. It's not a big deal. It just kind of moves on. And so
it's the disconnect stuff. What was it he said a couple months ago where he goes, well, it seemed like he was trying to relate. He goes, because I know what it's like at the grocery store. You have to show your ID whenever you buy groceries. Did you see that?
No. And that's when you buy alcohol.
And people are like, everybody's like, yeah, we all know what it's like for us average Americans. You have to bring your passport to get the banana. What is happening?
I haven't seen that. But
so anyways, okay, yes.
So 50-year mortgages dropped. They're floating the idea of offering a 50-year mortgage, which I don't know if that's coming from, I guess, on a federal level with the FHA. I'm not... Excuse my ignorance. I just have heard a little bit about it. I can't speak to it. Like, I don't know how you convince. I don't know if the Fed chair convinces the major banks and lenders to go to 50-year. So let's talk about a 50-year mortgage and what are the pros and the cons, right? Because we have a friend, Kevin, who's posted all about it, and you'll have him on an episode soon, and so he can talk about that. And if you're a realtor and you want business. And you want to see traction in a time where housing is not very affordable, and it is not. I mean, housing prices have skyrocketed and salaries are not keeping up. It's never been harder for a younger person to get into a house or someone to buy their first house. I mean, you kind of went through and bought a house just recently. So a 50-year mortgage is going to make a payment way more affordable for someone to get into a house. So I want to say that's the benefit.
Right.
That somebody can get into a house. I think and I understand that it was the same talking point that President Trump did, which was like, well, what does it matter? You get into a mortgage, you got a lower payment, you're good right now. You know, you don't have to pay for it for 50 years. You're probably thinking, okay, you're going to move to another house, or you can refinance, or you can do this. And that's true. I mean, I've never, to this point, this is the longest I've ever been in one house.
How long have you been in this house?
15 years.
Okay.
Longest I've ever been in one house. I've never stuck a mortgage out to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say,
but you're
in reality,
a rare breed.
Huh?
You're a rare breed.
No. I think majority of people, I mean, at some point.
Oh, I thought you meant like you paid it off.
Yeah,
already.
I've never stuck one out to the end. I've never gone 30-year. If you do a 20-year, I've never stayed in a house that long. And so I understand this can be a real benefit. If somebody's trying to get into a house, a first house or whatever, a 50-year mortgage can be a great benefit. So I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I'm opposed to the economics of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not opposed to it in certain things. Here's my take, and then I'd love to know yours. Because if you could go back and you just bought a house, would you have done a 50-year mortgage? So maybe you would. You were like, if I could have had a lower payment, increases my cash flow, my liquidity, that helps. Yeah. Especially in a tough economy. So I get all of that. Maybe I'll refinance to a 50-year. I won't. No. I'm locked in with a really good rate and a short loan. So, but the drawbacks, and so I want to say the drawbacks because I understand all the positives. The drawbacks are a couple of things. Number one, you are going to pay more in interest over the life of it. And I understand that people will go, well, who's going to stay in a loan that long? Even if you don't stay in a loan that long, you're still going to pay more in interest. So you are paying a little bit more, you're paying more in interest, number one. Number two, you do have the potential, depending on down payments and other stuff, of it could take so long that I don't want to say you lose equity because you don't necessarily lose equity, but your pay down, the gap that you're going to get for building your equity is going to take way longer than it would on a more traditional loan. Does that make sense? In other words, you're paying down less in principal every month to lower your actual mortgage. And if property values do not continue to rise, if we get to a peak, if property values decline, if we have anything like happened with 2018 or 2008, or property values drop, you could actually end up upside down. And I mean, that's always the potential when you push out a loan really far. And then I think just, again, this is more of a personal, as I look at people and how they operate their finances, the benefit could be for people getting into a house, a first house that maybe couldn't afford. That I appreciate it for it. But how it will be abused in an economic standpoint of financial irresponsibility is that there will be a lot of people that will just end up buying way more house than they probably can afford or should. And all they're doing it. So in other words, it's the same thing that would happen like with buying a car. It's like, oh, I can go buy a car, and a traditional max out loan would be a 60-month, 5 years, right? They're offering loans out to 9, sometimes 10 years on cars. So now I could afford a $30,000 car, I can afford a $50,000 car. I can drive this thing in luxury. But what have I done? I've mortgaged the next 10 years. I'm paying a higher interest rate. I may be upside down in the car. So that's why I say I see the pros, but my own personal I don't know, the economics. I just think a lot of people are going to take advantage of what I would say is buying into a house that maybe they shouldn't because they can't really afford it. And then they're going to do something negative to their finances. When you look at the long term or the big picture, because I think we have to look a little bit long term. We can't just only look short term.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I think the first thing that popped in my mind when I heard about it is, and I'm not an economic expert, but I'm like, is this kind of the reverse method of the economic bubble pop of 2008 and 2009? Is this a different way of giving people what they can't actually afford?
I mean, another way to the same thing, because in 2008, banks were just signing off on loans that people couldn't afford.
Right.
And builders and people were buying down for the first year or two. And
so my mind went to that. My mind also went to, or is a more apt, not analogy, but similarity. us helping students go to college, but giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt.
Right.
Like, is this actually doing people a favor? Right. Is one question. Number two, is it good economically for the country long term? Is another question. To me, to me, the only time it would actually make sense to sign a 50-year mortgage is if someone is such not an agoraphobe, but somebody who's like, I no one in my family's ever moved. I will never move, and I have no dream of ever being debt free.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean that harsh, but part of me is like, unless you're just never going to move and you don't really care about being debt free or using equity anytime soon, then I can see moments where it would be beneficial. And in all fairness, I will say there is something different that happens when, like, for me, from an early age, I was reading Dave Ramsey, college, and I've read all his books multiple times. I've helped teach some of his classes, even though I love to spend. And and I have the talking points memorized when it comes to a home. You only do 15-year fixed rate mortgage, and only it's less than a quarter of your take-home salary.
Yeah,
that sounds really great, especially in 2010.
Or before that. I gotta be honest, I've long thought that some of Dave Ramsey's stuff is in a similar way to what we've been saying about President Trump is disconnected from reality.
True.
Maybe. I don't know if I would have bought a house.
Yeah.
If it was only 15 year.
Yeah.
Like we could have. I mean, even our first home, there's no way we could have afforded it.
Right.
So, and I think there's the flip side. So you paint a picture of somebody who's like, I'm never going to go anywhere, and I don't really care about when I get it paid off. I think the other side is, and here's what I think some people would say.
Because you're a math person. Lay out the math of how much more, like I saw some of the numbers last night of how much more you're paying in interest. Just going from 30 to 50.
Oh, yeah.
It's massive.
I mean, I haven't seen anything. It all depends on the interest rate and what you end up doing and the way it's laid out. But I've heard that it's going to be 4.5 to 5 times your actual. So traditionally, say you bought a $100,000 home, depending on your interest rate, obviously, a 30-year mortgage, you would typically end up spending about $300,000 to pay it back. It's almost 2 to 1. It's that high. It may not be quite that much. It all depends on your interest rate, and they've changed. I mean, from 2.5% all the way up to 7-8%, right? So that all matters. This is probably going to go to a multiple of 4, 4.5, or 5 times it. So buy a $100,000 home, it may cost you $450,000 by the time if you just make the normal payments. I don't think anybody would want to do that. I don't think that's great math. I don't think that's a great idea. However, what I think a lot of people would say here is why I would take advantage of it. Is if I get into a house that I wouldn't be able to in the economy, a 50-year mortgage, and if what Donald Trump says and guarantees is going to happen, that the interest rates are going to drop. He says if that terrible Fed chair that I think he still forgets that he appointed in 2017, but if that terrible Fed chair had already lowered the rates, because that's what he said in his most recent interview, if he had already done what he should have done, this is what President Trump says, right, that we wouldn't have as much of a problem. The interest rates would be lower, which does help for buying and getting into houses and loans and all that good stuff. So I can see that as a pathway. You get into a 50-year mortgage and the interest rates drop, you refinance. You can refinance to a 30-year mortgage or whatever, and the interest rates have gone from 7% down to 5, 4.5. Now you're like, okay, that's the equivalent of what my payment might have been on a 50-year mortgage, right? So I can see that, and I think that may work. It's like you're saying all this stuff. There are unintended consequences with all the decisions that we make. There are also a lot of people that are going to go, whoo, I can go buy that much house with a 50-year mortgage. I'm just making the payment. And this is the mindset that we have in general in our country. Everything is short term. I mean, look at our debt. I don't even know. What are we approaching? 40 trillion? What is it? I don't know. And we just passed another bill that's going to raise it potentially another 4 trillion. And we just don't care. And so that's the mindset from the top down. And that's the mindset that everybody has in our country as well today. And I'm not the Dave Ramsey. I think Dave Ramsey has built a lot of great stuff and helped a lot of people. And I like listening to his show. I like his clips. I think it's fascinating. It's fun. And I think there's a lot of great advice there. I think some of it's a little bit hard and extreme for the average person to figure out. I would never get into a house if I did all of those things. But then I look at the other side and I see this. And did you see the funny meme from Babylon B? It was like Dave Ramsey ends up is in a hospital or whatever, but whatever from the 50-year mortgage. It's like, and so, I mean, could you imagine his take on it? Oh my
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So
like you said, we're going to have Kevin on here. I think Kevin's for it.
Well, my guess is whether they voice it or not, most realtors are, right? I mean, that's their business. You get it buying houses.
But he would also publicly say he's a little bit more conservative economically and in different ways.
Maybe.
I mean, I think he would say he says that.
Personally, he
is?
Yes. Personally, he is?
Well,
or like you mean, what do you mean? Like you mean like in regards to the government and that would be conservative when it comes to finances?
We'll have him on. He can tell me if he disagrees that statement. But I think he would vocally
like
say
I said,
that.
I see positives,
right?
And I think it could be something that could be helpful. You have to have discipline, and you have to not. I think it's very shallow for us as a country and individuals to just look very short term, and it's kind of partly why I wrote "Don't Wing It," because I think you live a little bit and you kind of realize, if you take an approach that is only really like, hey, I'm just going to live for the now and not worry about tomorrow, then don't bother saving for retirement.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you're missing out on the greatest stock market we've ever had.
Yeah.
If you do that now, you'll wake up one day and you'll be, 50, 60 years old going, oh, geez, I wish I had done that. So I guess I have a little bit more of a long-term picture.
I'm curious, and you probably talked about this and Don't Wing It, but what is your, in general, math I mean, if you wouldn't go so far as, Dave Ramsey says, don't buy a house until you're, unless it's 15-year fixed rate and it's less than a quarter of your take-home income and you're debt-free and you have a fully funded emergency fund. Obviously, you wouldn't go that far. How far would you go there? Because I told you, you're very big on get a house, which makes sense. It's besides your income, it's your biggest wealth building. The earlier you can get in, I definitely wish back, I definitely could go back and be like, I wish I got one earlier.
The increase in value?
Especially because of the rates. Before the rates. And then once the rates hit and I was actually looking for a home, I'm like, oh my gosh, can't pay this. But on the flip side, I've told you, I, especially when I was in Lexington, watched a lot of families that went through the opposite problem. They bought a house before they were ready and said it was the worst decision they ever made in their life, and it ruined them financially. So like, so I get for you, you're like, get a house. But what in general parameters would you give if you wouldn't go as extreme as Ramsey?
Well, it's probably more of just a perspective and a take. Okay, I don't know those individual situations. Every person that I've ever known that's bought a house that has been in one for a while, I've had conversations with our other executive pastor, Trey Kessels, and he says buying a house was one of the best decisions they ever made, and that's enabled them to move multiple times and actually have a house for their family that they love in an area that they love, and that would have never been possible if they didn't buy early. And their family was really invested in trying to hey, you guys get a house. We want, and so my perspective is going to be get a house as fast as you can. I don't know what happened with those particular folks. I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things. It could be they bought, again, I don't know and I don't project. Could be we bought more house than we should have. It could be we bought a house on an ARM, adjustable rate mortgage. Could be we bought a house. What happened in 2008, which is all these builders were helping people and go, oh, you can get into the house for only 3% interest. So they were able to get the numbers to work to get into the house. But it's because the builder bought down the first 2% for 1 year, 2 years. So then it went from 3 to 4% to 5%. And all of a sudden their payments are going up every single month. On top of that, the property value goes up. So their property taxes are going up. And then their insurance is going up. So all of a sudden they're watching their locked in payment. I think we can swing it, go up every single month, and get to a place where you go, we're just squeezed financially. So I understand that scenario, and that happened to a lot of people, and we had a housing crisis because of it. So I think there needs to be, and I give some parameters in there. There's some rules out there. 28, I think, is kind of like the max recommended number of your income, debt to income. Which, you get Ramsey 25%. Banks will go higher than that. you probably should try to stay around a third or less of your mortgage. Again, I'm pushing the envelope a little bit. And I think for us, when we bought our first house, it felt like a push. And our interest rates weren't great back then. This was in the 90s, 7 3/8 or something was our interest rate. House prices were better. It was $115,000 for our first home. Okay, and it wasn't a big home, it was a small home, but $115,000 for a home. And obviously salaries were lower, but it was a stretch for us at first. But it was a calculated step, and we were responsible. Yeah. And so, again, you got to be responsible. I think as an adult, I think we were married. That helped. You had 2 incomes. My wife was graduating. I mean, I don't know how you could.
Nowadays, single income.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Nowadays, single income to buy a house. Yeah.
So.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So it's wild out here.
Yeah. It is a crazy time. I know we got to wrap up and I got to run, but yeah, there's been a lot going on right now, and who knows if we're going to see tariff stimulus. No, I was going to say a word I didn't want to say. Stimulus checks, which I don't know if that'll happen, and I worry that what happened last time with stimulus checks would happen again, which is we pump a bunch of money into the economy. It helps for a moment, and then inflation sets in. Yeah. And then rates and everything go back up again. So I'm not an expert on all this from the government. I'm a little bit leery and afraid that we don't have experts in our leadership to do this. Yeah. I hope President Trump has this plan, and we can't fully see it, and it will all come. And I'll be grateful if it does. Yeah. The tariffs and all of this with insurance, and if it all works and interest rates come down and things are just, man, I will get on here and I will give him his props. Yeah. Until then, the prices are up. Yeah. I haven't felt it. Stock market's up. Great. If I was going to retire, I'm not today.
But that part,
and it could change as well tomorrow. That's why I don't put a lot of stock in it. Yeah. It's like, it's the highest it's ever been. That's great. We all know it could crash tomorrow. Yep. And the value of that just is gone like that. And so I think what people want is real world help. How do I deal with insurance? How do I deal with utilities? How do I deal with skyrocketing grocery prices? How do I deal with the housing issue and affordability? I think that's what people want to know.
It's really interesting. I was listening to a fascinating podcast, very inspiring, but also just fascinating, with Tony Robbins and Lewis Howes. And Lewis Howes was talking about, how much would you love to be in this moment? Lewis Howes and a group of people were invited to Tony Robbins Island for
It's not like Epstein Island, is
it?
Okay,
no. Sorry. For debrief and just development and ideation. But I think it was right before COVID, if I remember. But basically, he said, I'll never forget, Tony, you looked at all of us and said, I want you to know I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Because Tony has his ear to all the top scientists in the world, economists in the world, everything. And he's just well-read. And it surprised me, because a lot of people think Tony Robbins, he's the rah-rah guy. Actually, his extensive breadth of history, and he actually emphasized you should read world history so you can understand and acknowledge seasons. Yep. And but he apparently looked at all of them on his island and said, winter's coming. And it's coming soon.
Well, it's actually here in Ohio. I was going to say that one is cold. So,
but on the podcast, I didn't know if this was encouraging or not. Tony said we're halfway through winter.
Oh, good.
He said we're halfway through winter, but here's what you're going to have to do to survive. And he gave all these, and it's a very interesting global current moment we're all in.
Well, maybe President Trump will be right. Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, maybe in a few years we'll be in summer.
That'd be awesome.
And hopefully in a couple weeks here.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening. Let us know your thoughts. I hope you could handle I don't know. Just there's so many different takes on all this. Yeah.
We just wanted to, I think people are living in it. Yeah. We just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. So, all right. Hope you are doing well. If you know someone that's struggling, let us know. We have forms to fill out, partners that we support to try to help anybody affected by everything going on. And that's our heart. So, hope you have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.